Yo, what up, kings and queens? It's your favorite couple, Kenya and Norris. And we want to welcome you to another edition of the Nubian Navigation podcast.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Once again, man, we want to thank all the listeners for the love and support on the podcast, man. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all of your support.
Definitely. So with that being said, let's get started. You know, in the last episode, we talked a little bit about, family struggles, and, we kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on that topic. So last week we talked about the makeup of our blended family, what our biggest struggles were, how we make it work, and a little bit of kind of the goals that we had within that blended family. So we want to add to that topic, by discussing in-laws, outside family members, outlaws, who you talk to when you and your spouse are at each other's throats, and does your family think you've changed in that relationship?
Wow, that's deep.
It is deep.
So, in-laws are people who are biologically not your family, but hold the same rights and the same duties as your natural family. In-laws are supposed to be a support. They're not supposed to be a liability or a responsibility or anything like that. But some statistics show that 11% of separated couples, they blame their divorce to the relationship with their in-laws.
Wow.
I mean, I know 11% doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot when you're thinking about people feeling like that's the reason why they got a divorce.
Nice.
Yeah. So the relationship you have with your in-laws does affect your relationship. But in-laws only affect a marriage if the two people who are married allow the in-laws to affect the marriage.
Facts.
So even if you're not married, this series does apply to you because you still have to deal with your significant other's family. And then I just want to give you a quote from the Bible. And even if you're not a religious person or anything like that, you can just still take the words and let it resonate in your situation. So Genesis 2:24 says, "A man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh."
They should become one flesh. And I'm going to tell you, man, for me, that's deep because, in the beginning, I used to be the type of person who would call, my mom about issues in my marriage, that I couldn't understand. And, my reasoning, right or wrong, was because, I needed validation that I can get through this, or because she needs to tell me that it's a female thing and I have to figure it out on my own.
Did she ever tell you it was a man thing?
Nah. My mama had all boys, man. So we live by, we live by some different rules, or whatever the logic is, man. I used to share my, I used to share my issues with my mom, and in the end, I found out the hard way that it only makes the relationship with my wife worse. It only makes it worse because she's more pissed off that I didn't tell her how I really felt. And I'd rather confide in my mom rather than her. And of course, I don't get the cookies. I don't get the cookies. So if I can't get the cookies, man, and if I can't get the cookies, that's a problem.
Right. So it says leave your mother and be joined with your wife, which means you need to talk to your significant other about your issues and not your mother, right?
Not your mother, not your cousin, not your friends. So just based off those experiences, I've learned to not use family members as a source of venting. And, that's not just based on those experiences, but also those family members could and would build a stigma about how they feel about your spouse. Even if the situation was resolved and handled in-house. So that alone has changed how I communicate what goes on in my relationship.
Right. So we really had to explore what are the reasons why you feel like your family should be involved in your relationship, and really is it a fear of displeasing your family or your significant other? That's really the issue. So two things that can help with the situation of in-laws or potential in-laws is, number one, you got to set priorities, and your priority is always your significant other. Right. So this is applied for not single people, but people who aren't married.
Yeah. Even in a relationship, even in a new relationship, if you have a person that you're involved with, and it's a serious relationship to where you can see longevity, you can see something long term, then definitely make them a priority. Right. In your relationship.
And then 2, set boundaries. And I know even before we were married, I had to set boundaries with my family. So with my father, he had this idea that nobody's good for his baby girl. And so talking mess, it was like, oh, hold up, what you talking about? That's my future husband right there. You're gonna have to slow down with all that, those comments. So setting the boundaries, and you may have to be the bad cop and tell your family, like, hold up, that's mine right there. You talking about mine is me. We became one.
That's right. You definitely have to set boundaries. I agree with that 100%.
So they say that newlyweds should live away from parents and in-laws, and that they should live in a different house. I know most of us that happened. Live in a different house and live at distance from the in-laws. And this could be good for the relationship. However, it could be a struggle when kids are involved. So for like us, we told you we have 5 kids. And my in-laws, they all live in Florida, which is a lot far from us. It's not a car ride. That's a plane ride away.
Right.
And so, what happens is our children don't get to see their family. So that's the struggle with that. But then we also don't have the ability for our in-laws to just be popping up and seeing what we're doing and all up in our business. So we really don't have those in-law problems.
Right.
But it could be a problem for other people out there listening.
Yeah, and I agree. And it strictly depends on how involved your outside family members are. For our family, like my wife mentioned, we don't have that issue because it's just me and her. So if it's not the 2 of us, then it's no one. It's definitely no one. So one of my favorite questions was, who do you confide in when you and your significant other are going at each other's throats? Whew, man. So who do you confide in, babe?
Well, I'll tell you this. Another biblical verse is Proverbs 25:9. And it says, debate your case with your neighbor and do not disclose the secret to another. So I believe in this and saying do not disclose that secret to another is basically you don't talk to anybody. For me personally, this is my opinion. As you previously said, that when you tell people your business, they can hold it against the person that you're talking about. Right. So if I'm mad at my husband and I go tell somebody, then even though when I forgive him and I move forward, they're still like, oh no, remember he did this and remember he did that, and they're looking at him a certain way, and they're calling me stupid for forgiving him, and so that makes it nobody's business what we're going through, right, because we're gonna have to work on that. So for me, if you got a problem, write that down and revisit it with yourself and talk to yourself and talk to your spiritual guidance for it to calm your spirit, because you really can't trust the opinions of others, really, or the feedback that they may give you.
And I feel that, but for me, it's just a little bit different. I reach out to my pastor, because I know that he has my best interests at heart in terms of my relationship and my marriage. I know that he won't be biased towards me or my wife, and he wants the best out of our relationship. And I trust the advice that he gives, and I trust that it will benefit the relationship and not just the individual. So let's just be real, man. Like, he may need to call me out on my shit.
Yeah.
He may need to call me out. And you can't have yes men and yes women in your life that are only talking to you about issues in your relationship, that you're talking to about issues in your relationship. You need a person or two that is for you and your union.
So I
And
guess
not
it's fair
just you.
to say, you need friends of your relationship.
There you go.
Okay, so people who have your best interest, your relationship's interest at hand.
Right.
And not just your friend.
Right.
And not just my friend.
Right.
But our friend.
Our friend. Like a relationship friend.
Okay.
And why? Why not? Why have friends of the relationship? Because you may start believing that you have no flaws, man. You may start believing that you don't contribute to the present issues in your relationship. You start saying things like, she tripping, not me. Right. Or, he got problems. That's not my problem. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a relationship. That's a dictatorship. That's definitely individuals just talking. You know what I'm saying? So
I really like that you said that, though. That this not your problem, her problem, whatever. But I think a lot of people struggle with that. Even we struggle with that in our relationship. When we would fight and be like, well, I'm good. That's your problem. You got to deal with that.
Right.
But it's not your problem, his problem, her problem. It's our problem, or it's y'all problem. You have to deal with it together.
Right.
And not really take the individual problem. And that's another reason, like, we're not telling everybody about it, because it'll be biased, like you said.
It'll be biased,
one-sided.
And not only that, by the time it get to the third ear, the problem it's said different. We all know how gossip works. It comes out one way, and then by the time it gets to the third person, stuff is added, stuff is missing. The truth is twisted to sound whatever, to make that person look good or the other person look good. So yeah, so do me a favor, man. Do me a favor and stop telling your single cousin about your relationship issues, because she can't relate. She can't relate at all. She's single.
People hate when you say that.
Yeah, well,
your single friends don't understand.
Your single friend don't understand. She's single for a reason, and you probably know why she's single.
That's harsh.
Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. Don't talk to non-relationship people about relationships. They just don't get it.
Okay.
Flat out.
So, another question we received in our email, our Nubian Navigations @gmail.com, was, does your family think that you have changed in your relationship?
Hey, I'm going to tell you like this. My family definitely believes my relationship has changed me. I was talking to my mom the other day, and she mentioned a few times, how she was proud of how I've grown as a result of being in a relationship with my wife. And just talked about how she can see the maturity level rise due to being in this relationship. So yeah, for me, it's definitely changed.
Yeah.
Me as a person.
It's not just your mom, though. It's your whole family who says that.
Facts.
They see the way that you process your emotions, your ability to communicate, and just your overall presence. You're talking about maturity, but growth and responsibility and taking care of your family. So you do a great job. I just want to thank you for taking care of your family, babe.
Thank you, baby. I appreciate that.
Affirmations,
man. I need that. I need it.
I always wonder why, mothers have a problem with their daughters-in-law. And they say, like, mothers feel like they losing their son because of this new significant other. He has a quote-unquote other woman in his life. But, that's why it's good to know your significant other's family before you get in a relationship, too deep in a relationship. Because you do want to know what their relationship is like before you come in, the dynamics, and no, that shouldn't stop you from engaging in a relationship with the individual, but you want to know what you're getting yourself into, right?
Absolutely. You definitely need to know what you need to know.
Right. So they say men usually have no problem, getting good with the in-laws. It's just the women usually struggle with it, like the relationship becomes a little bit more complicated, and then they struggle with happiness in their marriage because they're not connecting with their other family.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I can't relate because, that's been a female thing, in my opinion.
And I think that is just a little bit true in our relationship. I don't have a problem with my mother-in-law or anything like that, but it is a little bit more complicated for me to get in than it was for him. He came in as the great savior, and so when we're talking about family thinking you changing a relationship, I'm not changed, but I've definitely, helped distance me from my relationship with my family, because my family can be toxic. And so having my husband has, allowed me to literally leave them alone. And so, it's helping me grow as a person, to let go of things. And so that was really great. And so, I think I've become a better person. It's changing me for the better,
right.
Being in a relationship and my family.
Definitely. And we don't want to deter you from leaving your family. We just want you to be aware of how your family can affect your relationships, and just try to keep your eyes open on what things are being done, what things are being said that can deter your relationship with your spouse or your significant other, as it pertains to your outside family members. So definitely keep that in mind. Outside family members are great. They're awesome, but the less they know, the better it is.
Right. So the top two things were to, your significant other is your priority, and that you need to set boundaries. And that will definitely help your relationship continue to grow and not let those outside influences negatively affect your relationship.
And there it is. So with that being said, man, we're going to wrap up this edition of the Nubian Navigation Podcast. If you guys have any questions or topics that you want to hear us discuss, please hit us up at nubiannavigations@gmail.com.
You can also go to the website, nubiannavigations.com, and you can leave comments there as well.
Or you can check us out on Twitter at Nubian Getaways for updates. Facebook at Nubian Navigation, and on Instagram at Nubian Navigation. So yeah, man, that's us, man. So remember, Black love matters.
Black love matters.
We out.